Hello friends, welcome back to Spellhaven, a D&D channel where everyone is welcome. So come on in, have a seat, grab your beverage of choice, and let's learn to run D&D together. My name is Jaren, and you are watching my Roll20 crash course for 2024. Roll20 being the virtual tabletop of my choice for the last 3.5 years. It's been very good, and I like to share what I have learned over that period. So today we dive into part number 4. We start adding music to the game. This is my favorite part, even though it's probably going to be the shortest video in this series. So let's take a look. And just to review, we did a little bit of the tool analysis and did a basic overview in the first video, a little bit of a not so in-depth tour, if you will, and talked about the layer system. In part number 2, we added some maps to the game and started tweaking how those maps looked, adding some assets. We talked a little bit about the dynamic lighting. Then in part 3, we started adding tokens to our map. So we talked about how to give players control over them, how to set up the dynamic lighting so that the tokens and the map function in sync. And we started adding some dynamic lighting lines to our map to start creating barriers. And we added some windows and some doors and talked about the differences and all that stuff. And a little bit of the initiative tracker at the end. And today we dive into music. As always, you can find all of this information on the Roll20 wiki. I'll put this in a link in the description. I'm going to give a less thorough description and explanation of this in this video, but this is to save you the trouble of having to go through the wiki, learn it the hard way. So we go back into our map. We don't even really need this, but this just gives you something to look at. And what we're looking for is over in this menu off to the right. We started talking about some of these different categories in the first video. What we're looking for here is the second from the right, jukebox. We click on this. We have some stuff that is part of the VTT enhancement suite, which I'm not going to get into. Mainly, what we want to look at here is manage audio. So we'll click on this and it pulls up this pop-up menu, and we've got playlists and tracks. Playlists, you can create different playlists from this menu so that you can kind of import and export across campaigns. I've never really used this because my music tends to be specific to that campaign. But maybe you wanted to have a generic overland travel playlist, and you don't have to recreate that every campaign. You just pull that in. You do you. And then tracks. So you can either import your own music, and I'm going to, again, give the disclaimer. If you're just doing this for friends, use whatever music you want. If you're trying to run a stream, do this commercially, making a YouTube video, please make sure you give credit where credit is due and that you have full rights in order to use that music. That said, all the music that I have here is either music that I paid for separately, purchased on Amazon or something like that. And I've gotten it from one of my favorite creators, fellow that goes by the name of Music D20 on Patreon. I'll put links to all that stuff in the description, and we'll mention that at the very end. But if you don't have your own music, Roll20 is partnered up with 3 different locations, 3 different companies, entities that they have built-in music to Roll20. So we've got Tabletop Audio, might have heard of it, Battle Bards, and Incomptech, which is all of Kevin MacLeod's music. And you can search through here. A lot of this stuff is tagged by category. Weirdly, they're all kind of their own tags. So it's not like Roll20 went through and tagged all these things, I don't think. So the tags are going to be different. So you can search for, as you can see here in the tabletop audio tab, we've got like ambience, fantasy, historical, all sorts of stuff. And there is just tons of tracks here to go through. Same thing with Battle Bards. They have their own filters. Incomptech's got its own filters. You can preview all of these by clicking the play button, and that lets you listen to the music, see what's going on, see if it's even something that you want to add to your game. When you have something that you want to add, you would just click add to game. I'm going to do that for one of my tracks, and I don't even know which one I'm going to use. I'm just scrolling through. These are all tracks that I have added over the course of my time using Roll20. And similarly, sorry, I'm going to back up a little bit. Similarly to this art library tab, which I didn't really get into because it's not something that I use much anymore. We took a look at this when we were searching the web for assets, but additionally, what this art library tab does is it stores everything that you've ever uploaded, maps, tokens, any of that stuff here in recent uploads. I'm pretty sure it's limited to a certain number. It's not going to store everything. I'm pretty sure. Maybe it actually does. But from here, if you want to start to build your own online organization, just a way to keep everything on Roll20 itself, maybe you don't want to have everything offline and not really organized all that well, you can do that here. You can make some folders, start to sort everything. You drag it from this recent uploads into these folders that you create. And similarly, and what's great this is it shares it across all of your campaigns. Similarly, back in the jukebox tool, if we go back to manage audio, my audio here, this is everything that I have uploaded across every campaign. It shares this, it keeps track of it so that you don't have to keep uploading the same track over and over. I will say though that there is a file size limitation, which I believe is 20 megabytes. It likes you to use like either MP3 or FLAC audio file type. It is also, your Roll20 account is limited in how much space you can occupy, how much you can upload. I don't remember what the free account is. It's fairly low. I have paid for the next level of space, and it's given me plenty. I don't ever have to delete pages or music or anything like that. So maybe worth your while to spend it's like $50 a year or something like that. And then from here, it's just a matter of clicking. Let's try. Oh, I know this track. We'll click add to game. And now we see it appears over on the right-hand side. Now, we can either play this from here directly, or what I like to do is just make playlists. So we'll click add new or add new playlist or empty playlist. We'll call this combat because I believe this is a combat track. And it creates the playlist. Now I need to actually drag it in. Like a file explorer, you can expand and collapse. You can see it's not actually in that playlist yet until I click. It's maybe hard to see because I'm kind of in night mode. Let me actually see if I can turn this into not night mode. It might have an easier time seeing this little hamburger menu here. This little handle, right? So over here, it's not in the playlist. You can see now it's sort of indented and it's actually in the playlist. So I can either play this list, I can play all the tracks, I can play individual tracks. If I just click this, it starts playing music. And you can see, I'm actually gonna pause this track, pause it and keep it playing. But what I can do, you can control the volume here, this volume slider. There we go. We have some options for individual tracks, fade in, fade out. I've never really gotten that to work properly. Maybe you try it around and see if you can get it to work. And then we've got repeat or loop or not. So maybe you've got some looping tracks and you just want to set it and forget it. Make sure that this is enabled. Then you can just click that track and it'll go forever. And maybe after 10 minutes, your players get sick of it. So you add more tracks and you go, well, I'm going to have 15 minutes of total music that are all going to loop. You go, well, how would I make it so if I added like 10 tracks, I want the whole playlist to loop, but not individual tracks, just the whole playlist. I want to play them all in sequence. Let's add a couple more. I don't want to add playlist. I want to add audio. I'm not going to play these, but just to show how this actually works. Let's just add a few more to the game. Sure. This not add? That's weird. Oh, I think I clicked add to new playlist. There we go. And let's also add to the game. And now we need to drag them in. Make sure it is in the playlist. You can see we can also reorder these if we want to. We can change the volume for individual tracks. We can set looping for individual tracks. If I want to play the entire playlist, I select this master play button here. Now it's going to play on whatever mode this is here. It's currently on shuffle, so it's just like shuffle. As soon as I click play, it's not going to play this sequentially. It'll just pick a random track. We also have play through, simul play, which plays all the tracks at once. Probably not what you want. We've got play once, should play all the tracks and then stop. Then we've got on loop, which should play all the tracks and then start from the beginning. So that's how you would kind of make a playlist of sequential tracks and then playing them loop from the beginning. Point of note though, if you do select loop the entire playlist and you have loop enabled on individual tracks, it will still loop those tracks until you click the next track button here. Hopefully you heard me over that music. That said, a bit of a note here. Your players can see the title of these tracks. So I would go in here. I believe it's just, you just have to single left click on the title and you can change it to whatever you want. So for instance, if they're going into an area that is the boss's lair, maybe you don't title your track BBEG theme song. You know, you title it something a little more ominous and ambiguous. What else about the playlist that I wanted to mention? Oh, when you might use simulplex, I wonder if you're thinking, well, I don't want to play like 6 different tracks at the same time, 6 different music tracks. You could also add in sound effects here, little background noises. Maybe you're running a dockside sort of situation, and you have some like seaside music, and you add in some sounds of seagulls and the sounds of waves crashing up against the docks. Maybe you found I found a really good track. I don't remember on which of these playlists it was, if it was Tabletop Audio, Battle Bards, or in Comptech, but it was I think it was titled Shopping Mall. It was just the chatter, the random noise chatter of a busy shopping mall, and I was able to turn that down a little bit, add that in, and you can put that in literally anything that's a city or any highly populated area as some background sound effect, and you just put that into your playlist, and now you've got these little environmental playlists that aren't just music. You've got maybe some background there's a bard on the corner playing the fiddle or something. You've got people talking, and then you've got the sounds of the waves or whatever your area is in. And you've created a playlist. It's a little bit more immersive, and it's got layers to it. And what's nice here is you can sort of adjust the volume of each one of these. So maybe you go, well, the chatter is a bit loud. I need to turn that down, and then I need to turn up the music. Maybe that's actually a little overpowering. We need to bring that down. We'll bring the sound of the waves crashing up a little more because that's a little unbalanced. And you kind of have this little rudimentary mixer at your fingertips. Another thing to note here is the master audio, which is in the audio and video section. I believe, no, it's not. Where is this? I must have changed where this was. I thought it was audio video. Yeah, I think this got changed as to where it was. Maybe this got taken out. There used to be a master volume button or slider. I guess that is no longer here. This must have been a recent change. So scrap that. We won't even focus on that at all. Just pretend I didn't mention that. Similarly, I guess one last thing to notice, similarly to file sizes when we uploaded maps, if it was really, really big, Roll20 might be able to eventually upload it. The smaller the file size, the better. So if you've got some extremely high file size, very good quality, lossless, whatever, that ends up being, 10 megabytes or bigger, maybe you don't need that high of quality, and you settle for lesser quality at the cost or at the benefit of being able to upload it right away. I haven't really run into any problems. My tracks tend to all be kind of small, and they're like 3.5-minute looping tracks. So I don't really run into that, but it is something to be aware of. As I mentioned, I think the file max size is 20 megabytes. And all that stuff is, you can reference that here in the wiki, which I said, I will put this in the link in the description. So let me make sure that I'm covering all the things I wanted to cover. We talked about importing super easy, dragging it into this manage audio window here. It is simply drag it into the window or click to upload. Either way will work. We talked about making playlists, either through the playlist tab on Manage Audio, or you can do that the manual way, which we did here. We made this combat playlist. Um, Lastly, I want to talk about some sources that I like, and I will put descriptions. I'll put links to all these things in the description as well. So maybe you're wondering, well, I want to run for friends. What kind of music? Where do you find it? How do I find music that isn't very recognizable as the Baldur's Gate 3 theme, for example? Um, I have found a lot of success with just fantasy movie and game soundtracks. Sci-fi movie and game soundtracks are really good. Um, a lot of my homework for finding music is just going through Spotify. Search for D&D fantasy music playlist. There's an infinite number of them out there. You'll go through, and some of them will be recognizable, some of them not going to fit. I started making my own D&D playlists on Spotify. While I'm out driving, I'll find some music, I'll add it to the playlist, and then when I get home, that's when I go in, like, find the actual track, uh, pay the dollar on Amazon, and I start building my music library. So I think one thing to point there, if you are going to go that way, try to get like B-list, movies and games, things that aren't very widely known. And I think another tip here is to try to find music and sound effects that are more background and not trying to be the spotlight. There's a lot of really fantastic music out there, but I found there's certain tracks that are great to listen to that aren't really good for running games because they're so good. That's where your attention goes. What you want is music that just kind of lives in the background that's not trying to grab the attention, right? And so some things are going to be better than that than others. It's certainly true that if you use things that are very recognizable, your players are going to be focusing on that theme for the next 15 minutes. And now we're talking about that game that we just played or movie that we just saw, and everything's getting sidetracked. We don't want that. We want music to add to the game, not subtract from it. So use lesser known stuff. Use things that are just sort of living in the background and not trying to grab the spotlight. And I've actually found that's a little challenging. It must be a real challenge as a tabletop music composer to write stuff that's good, but not so good that you only want to listen to that. You know, and I commend anybody that can actually accomplish that. So a couple of my favorite, um, you know, tabletop music composers aren't big names, I suppose. Fellow by the name of Music D20 on Patreon. I think it's like $5 a month. You can subscribe. I don't know if he's still adding music, but the library of music is massive. You can go and get all of it as a $5 a month subscriber. I think might have changed it, but that's what it was last time I looked. And the library is huge, right? I'm still going through and finding favorites and finding new stuff that I downloaded like 6 months ago. But what's really amazing about this library is it's got non-looping as well as looping versions for a lot of these tracks, which takes a lot of headache out of my job. I find a few tracks that I like, maybe 6 to 10 or something like that, that are the looping versions. Put them into a playlist, set it, and I don't have to worry about it. It's just gonna have music going the whole time, and there's no breaks in it. They were written specifically to be looping tracks for VTTs. Another one of my favorites, I discovered this composer last summer. I think I was looking for Spelljammer music, and this composer, Elise in the Clouds, I'll put a link to their Bandcamp and all that, had a whole album just for Spelljammer campaigns. And I've really, really enjoyed it. It's fantastic music. It's not too over the top in the spotlight. It's just in that really nice zone. And it's just really, really pretty. And a lot of times it's thematically right on point with some of the stuff I want to do. And it gives me ideas too. I'll listen to the music from this artist, and it just inspires me with ideas. I find not just visual art in campaigns, but sometimes music inspires me for entire sections of a homebrew campaign. I have stuff coming up that is entirely because I listened to an electronic track and went, that would be pretty cool if it was in D&D. And it wasn't even words. It was just a feeling that I got. and sometimes music can do that for you. So two of my recommendations for lesser known composers, I suppose, Music D20 and Elisa in the Clouds. I hope I'm pronouncing their name correctly, but I will put links in the description. So if there are any questions, I think that's going to do it for the audio section of this crash course. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments. And if you found any of this helpful, feel free to pass it along, share it with your friends. Would be much appreciated. So thank you for watching. We'll see you in future non-crash course videos.